take a look at this sound. I've done this before where I would just I took off the clutch fan, I took off all the pulleys, ran it off the battery for a little bit, and it sounded perfect. Like there was no that bad pulley sound, like it's running without any lubricant in there or any grease. So we're gonna start off by disconnecting the power steering and running the car with just only the alternator, and that's it. And then we'll disconnect the alternator. We'll take off the alternator drive belt, and we'll see if the sound is still there. And if the sound is not coming from the alternator, it's either the fan clutch pulley bracket, this one right here. It comes out all the way. It does have a little play, so it's either this or I don't know, maybe something down there at the crankshaft or whatever, big pulley right there. Don't know how the exact name, but let's disconnect the power steering, and we'll see how it sounds. Alright, so I took off the power steering belt. I loosened it. I'm gonna set this aside. And also, before this video started, I took off the AC pump belt, and the sound is still coming. So let's try to run it just with alternator and see if the sound was coming from power steering or not. Alright, as you guys just heard, sound is still coming. Like there's no, it's like some sort of pulley, or it's a bearing or something that is not lubricated or without any grease. So I'm gonna loosen this one, the alternator belt, and we'll run it off the battery for a few seconds to see if the sound is still there. Alright, so I took off the alternator belt and I put the power steering belt back on, so that way we know if the sound is still coming from here, because it will be running obviously. And if the sound stops and this is all running perfectly, that means the bracket is good with the bearing in there, and that's just gonna tell us that the alternator bearing is bad. Alright, and there you go. Alright, so as you guys heard, everything else sounds good and perfect, healthy. It's just the alternator that is bad, or the sound is coming from the alternator. I have a spare alternator, so I'm gonna replace it and see if the sound is still there. Alright, so we got both of these alternators right here. So this is the current one that makes a bunch of noise, and this came with the Japanese alternator because this engine was imported from Japan. So as you guys can see, the pulley is a lot fatter than that one. So let's quickly see if we could get these pulleys swapped out real quick, and then we'll throw in the alternator inside the engine, and we'll see if it keeps making that noise. But from what it sounds like, this one doesn't even make any sound at all. So, or very minimum, where you can barely hear anything. And this one feels a lot more smoother and lubricated, whereas in this one it feels like something's rubbing. And yeah, so let's quickly switch out these pulleys and see if this alternator will work. Alright, so we got the alternator on, the Japanese one. Was not able to get the pulley on it replaced, so it does look kind of weird, but it's sitting on there pretty good, I guess. Hopefully it doesn't give me any issues. Alrighty, so turns out all the other alternator I had, it was bad, and my car just started dying out. So it's got a brand new one, so let's pop this one in there and see if it starts and runs good.